Good morning, Sam.
Morning, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah. I don't recall, where are you going to school?
I'm actually getting my associates at Mesa right now, and then I'm looking
Okay.
to transfer to University of Oregon.
Yeah, I did some classes at Mesa years and years ago.
It's a good program. I mean, they still are doing pretty much the same thing.
Are they teaching you how to draw?
Yeah, we hand draft. The
Good.
first 2 semesters we hand draft.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Keep that craft alive.
100%. I start everything that way. I have my
Yep,
stuff right here
yep,
still.
yep. That's how I start. I was just sketching this morning on something. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's definitely the way. I feel like it quicker iteration. You're not as limited by the software.
Yeah, yeah, it's quicker from the brain to the hand than
Hmm.
than dealing with the commands and everything. Yeah.
They emphasize that actually a lot. Our professors emphasize that a lot, and a lot of universities say that about Mesa's program is that our students can really hand draft still.
That's great. And yeah, yeah. Are you going to go somewhere else after this or
University of Oregon,
okay.
hopefully. I was thinking Cal Poly, but just the living expenses in Oregon might set me up in the future a little better, you know. I
Yeah.
got family there.
Oh yeah, family up there. Okay, cool. So they have a good program then up there?
They do, yeah. They focus a lot on like working with the environment. They have a good landscape architecture program, and I'm interested in kind of integration, something I saw from your website, integrating. Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Not
I,
just not just inside out architecture, but also outside in.
yeah, I'm writing that down. Um, yeah, actually, regarding your schooling, I was wondering where you started. You said you took some classes at Mesa.
Oh yeah, this was like years and years ago. I started, but I didn't. It was the 70s, right? So there was a lot of, and I was young and I really wasn't that interested in continuing school when high school was done.
Yeah.
So I started taking some classes at Mesa and then I just didn't go. And, it was a little partying going on. And then, and then I restarted a program. And the very first class, very first class was an architectural orientation class, and where the professor would teach you about the profession of architecture, just in a general fundamental way. No specific skills, but just teach you about the profession. And the very first thing he says to the class is, remember, this is like 1978,
Yeah.
something like that. Um,
Around there.
the very first thing he says to the class is, in the state of California, there are two ways to get your architectural license. One way is to go to school for 4 years, 5 years, and then work under a licensed architect to make up the balance of a total of 8 years of work and education.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Or work for a licensed architect for the entire 8 years, take the same exam, get the same license. I walked out.
Nice.
I was like, hell yeah. I'm just gonna like spend a few years spending my dad's money for and learning, taking classes I don't even want to have any interest in, when I can actually be working in an architectural office and get the same license. You can't do that anymore, but that was, yeah, you have to have a degree now to get the
Yeah.
license. But I mean, that was just a no-brainer for me.
And so you did all your hours under a licensed architect.
Yep, yep, I did.
How'd you find the licensed art? Did you have someone in your life that was an architect already, or?
No, that's a good valid question. No, I was at the time, there weren't a lot of entry-level jobs in architecture. And I ended up working as a technical illustrator for like 5 years and ended up supervising a technical illustration team for a military contractor. We were doing like, when you get like instructions on how to build something, there'll be like
Yeah.
an exploded view with all
Yeah.
the center lines and the screws and the washers and everything. We did a lot of that stuff.
Okay,
It
cool.
was ink on Mylar. And so I did that for like 5 years. But at this company, there were technical writers that worked in the offices upstairs. And so at lunch, I would always go up. This one guy got a newspaper like every day, and I would go up there and search the classified ads and on my lunch break. And one day there was an ad for an entry-level position at a company called Silman Wyman in Sereno Valley in San Diego. And so I applied, I got an interview, and in the meantime, because I had taken so many classes, I took a little architectural drafting class at this little college in downtown San Diego called American Business College. It's not even in existence anymore. But I got a little certificate, but it wasn't great, but it was something, right? And but in the meantime, I had been doing like little projects for people, and one was pretty good. A friend of my dad's, you brought up family, friend of my dad's had me do drawings in Del Cerro in San Diego for, in addition to his house. His house was on a hillside, and like this,
Yeah.
like that, and I filled in underneath and added
Nice.
like a guest room and a bathroom and a family room and the stair up and everything. And so all I had when I went to my interview, all I had to show was those drawings. But what I brought was the permitted construction set
Nice.
that had all the stamps from the city on it and everything. And so I did the interview, and apparently they'd interviewed like 7 or 9 people because there weren't that many entry-level positions, like I said. So they got quite a response. But they selected me based on that. And I remember my first task of my first day at work and on the job, my first task was to wash the company car.
Nice. Yeah.
I
Well,
remember
they saw your drafting skills and they said, this is the guy
right.
that we need washing the company car.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, but they got me on the board, and then I went up in ranks pretty quickly because they saw that I could draw. Well, he saw it from what I brought at the interview, and but he had to put me in. They had to put me in my place to start with. That's typical parenting. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it went really well. I really learned a lot, and lucky for me, that first position, I was there for, I don't know, 3.5 years or something before I moved to a different architectural firm. And yeah, the 8 years required for the license didn't have to be all the same firm. It just has to be, there's a form for the architect to sign saying that, yeah, you worked here full time. But I got really lucky because that first firm that hired me, Silman Wyman, was an A&E firm. So it was an architect and a civil and structural engineer. So I got exposed to all 3 of those disciplines.
That's very cool.
Did drafting work for all 3 of those disciplines. So it really helped me understand how a project gets put together. So it was so much more valuable than going to college.
And do you think that is what led you, like being part of all parts of the design process? Do you feel like that's what led you to residential?
No, that's a good question. I don't know if that is a part of it, because what we did there was very little residential, but mostly like shopping centers um, some municipal work, and so more commercial level stuff. But I definitely learned that how buildings went together and how the site needs to be taken care of, and all of that. But what drove me to residential was when eventually I ended up at Tucker Sadler, which is where I was working when I got my license finally. So that's where I was at the end of the 8 years. And that was a really great firm. But it also did really large scale projects. So we had San Diego Zoo as one of our clients. We did a veterinary hospital. I was on helped run the team for Grossmont Union High School District, or Steel Canyon High School. We had like 5 drafting people for 8 months to do the construction drawings. Big project. And the Olympic Training Center in Otay Mesa, I was on that team. So yeah, it was really cool projects. But like every other architect, even though they frown, the owners of the firm frown on it, like every other architect, I was moonlighting doing residential projects on the side. On the evenings and weekends, I was doing residential projects. And I started to figure out that I really liked the residential work so much better because it's so personal. It's somebody's home, and it's somebody's, 1 or 2 people. That's your client, 1 or 2 people, and it's their money and it's their future, and it just felt so much better to be involved in that than the large scale projects where you're having to satisfy committees and user groups, and they don't always agree, and it's just like, to me it was nightmarish. I mean, so when I finally started my own firm in 1986, which was 37 years ago, Silva Studios, it was just residential, and I've kind of been doing that. I've done a few specialty commercial
I've seen, yeah, I saw some of
projects, but only for special clients.
Mhm.
So I get kind of choosy with the commercial work, but yeah, I like the personal aspect of the residential.
Yeah, I weirdly enough, that's what drew me to, or I think that's what draws a lot of people to residential probably. And then multifamily for like, but designing for the end user, right? Because
Right,
then you get that personal. That's
right. There's the personal thing, but then there's also,
yeah.
there is clearly more design opportunity
Mm.
in residential.
Mm-hmm.
Getting down to details and doing more interesting stuff. You've seen the stuff on my website, I'm sure. Yeah. So it's most commercial clients, even if it's large scale, like a school, or
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the money. Exactly. It's all about economy.
Mm-hmm.
And where does architecture fit into economy?
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, those kind of projects, to me, the architect is just there to facilitate the drawings for construction, and facilitate the jurisdictional processing.
Mm-hmm.
They get some opportunity, but yeah, it's really strictly controlled by economy. And residential is too, to some effect, but a little bit less because of the personal aspect, because of the fact that people want to live in something that's nice, and and if they have the means, they're going to spend a little extra to make it special, make it like living in art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very, very. I mean, I expected such answers just viewing your work. You can definitely see that,
Thank you.
and which is, I mean, it reflects, and I think that's, I mean, from what I hear, that's why you like it. residential. And then the licensing process, you did that right after your big or your job at that bigger firm, Tucker Sadler.
Yeah, I can't remember which. Oh, they had already, I hadn't gotten my license yet, but they had already moved me into the portion of the production room where all the project architects sat against the window cubicles. Yeah.
Fancy.
So they had already put me in the position of project architect, even though I couldn't really call myself that yet until I got the license. But I remember that's where I was sitting when I got the phone call from my wife and said, the letter's here. Do you want me to open it? Hell yes. And so she gave me the good news. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't remember which project that was. It may have been the high school. Yeah, it probably was. I think it was probably the high school.
And that was just the typical process, right? Before you got licensed, typical of what they do today, pretty much. The sitting for the exam. Maybe not all online.
So it was very different because it was all hand done. It was, yeah. I mean, it still is like a week-long exam, like 4 or 5 days long. It's like the bar exam. Actually, I knew somebody that had done the lawyer bar exam and had done the architectural exam, and he thought the architectural exam was much harder than the bar exam. So there's that.
Oh no.
Yeah, and that's why so many architecture students don't end up getting licensed. The statistics for that are kind of sad. But I have a feeling that you're going to go all the way. Yeah. So back when I did it, it was 4 days,
Mhm.
and the last day, Thursday, was a 12-hour design portion, all drawn by hand.
Wow.
Hand drafted. So you had to come in with your portable drafting and backpack full of triangles and scales and pencils and sharpeners and erasers and all that stuff. And but back then, it's not like now where you can just schedule it. As soon as you've got your paperwork in order, you can just schedule it.
Yeah.
You take it any time. It wasn't that way back then. Back then, this was 90s, early 90s when I got my license. And back then, the exam came around to your city once a year. So if you don't pass certain portions of it, you have to wait a year until it's back. It gives you a year to study up or whatever and prepare, and then you take the same exam again. And
the portions you failed.
The portions you failed. Correct. So because I didn't go to school, really, I decided that I had no idea even what to study. Why would I waste my time studying? I thought, okay, so I thought to myself, okay, Mark, you think you're hot shit, let's just take the exam without any studying and see where you're really at. So there's 8 sections to the exam.
Yeah.
I took the exam and I passed 5.
Okay.
One of the ones I passed the first time was the design portion.
Yeah.
Which was huge to me.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So the other 2 are actually 5. No, 6. No, I passed 6 because there was only 2 I had to take a second time.
Nice.
Yeah, 6 out of 8. And then so the other 2, I had to wait a year, and I did do some studying on those particular subjects because now I knew what I needed.
Which ones?
I don't remember what they were now. I wish I still had all that paperwork. Materials and methods, maybe, or I don't know. There was.
Yeah.
They divided up, and it's probably similar divisions now, but probably maybe a little different. Well, they have a huge sustainability section, I'm sure now that we didn't have any.
Yeah. Codes on sustain.
Yeah. So I waited a year and then I passed them the next time.
Very nice.
Yeah. Now it's way more convenient. You can just, I think
Yeah,
they probably make you wait like 3 months or something before
it
you
is.
can.
It's
And
3 months
yeah,
exactly, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was just a guess, but that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can do it online, you don't
Yeah.
most of and then did they do an interview, a closing interview like they do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had heard from I had good higher up friends at that firm, and I had heard from a couple of them that once you've passed and you've proven that you know your stuff, that the interview portion, what do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. Or oral exam.
Yeah.
It's an oral exam, which I
Mhm.
can't use that term now because it sounds like porn. But
True. What do I
yeah,
have to do to be an architect?
yeah, right. Wait a minute. What is this part? Nobody told me about this part. um, but yeah, so they told me that the interview portion was really just so they can sit down and talk to you and make sure you're not an asshole.
Hmm,
And
cool.
that's pretty much what it was. It was
Nice.
like super casual. They we talked about, they had a couple of questions that were technical questions, and I knew the answers. It wasn't even really about that.
Yeah.
It was about, who are you, where'd you come from? There's just making sure you're not, running from the law or something.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Fair. Fair, fair.
yeah,
A- And you opened your firm after you were moonlighting a little, so you gained a few customers, I'm sure, through
right,
moonlighting.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I moonlighted a lot, pretty much all the years, the whole 8 years I was working.
Yeah, and that's where you like were able to feel comfortable going off on your own.
Yeah, yeah, right. And yeah, we had a little house in San Diego, and there was a little one-car garage off of it that wasn't really being used, and so that's where I set up shop.
Nice.
And it was detached from the house.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go. That's all we need.
So yeah, so I had a little commute of about, I don't know, 20 steps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good. That's
yeah,
nice. I was
yeah.
wondering.
So in reality, to answer
Yeah,
that question, I started it, but it was kind of part-time at the beginning,
yeah.
and then as I got more and more business, then I just like did it full time. And I
Okay,
don't think that took more than, I'm sure it was less than a year.
nice. That's cool. Less than a year of moonlight. I was wondering if you consider yourself to have a style. I knew that on your website you mentioned like mid-century modern a little bit, or like new mid-century
Yeah,
or
mid-century modern.
yeah. And I was wondering if like how that developed over time. That
Oh,
stuff.
good question. Well, I grew up in a mid-century modern. I grew up on Mount Slaughter in Pacific Beach, in
Where I grew up.
huh? Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Pacifica development, a William Kreisel post and beam mid-century modern,
Yeah.
floor to ceiling glass because of all
Mm-hmm.
the views up there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the house. And I remember in my bedroom when I was a kid, uh, the ceiling, and they were all open beam ceilings, even in all the bedrooms. It was a beautiful little house, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And my bedroom was right at the juncture, right where the ridge beam came through,
Mm-hmm.
and the rafters, the rafter sat on it, and
Mm-hmm.
it was almost a square of this room. And when
Mm-hmm.
I laid in bed, I looked up at the ceiling, and the TNG wood was there, which was actually the roof. The roofing was on top of that, and then these two beams like crossed, like a cross, right in the center of the room. I don't know. It was just something really magical about it, and I think that had something to do with what I ended up doing. But so then because I had an interest in and I knew that whole development,
Mm-hmm.
all the different houses and everything. And part of it was like when I was a kid, there was development. All of Mount Soledad hadn't been built out yet, so they were still building more buildings. And the construction sites, I would ride my bicycle, my Stingray bicycle, to these construction sites on the weekends when there's no work being done, and they didn't fence things back then. And so I could ride my bike through, and I rode my bike through, and I'm like just watching the progress of the construction, just learning exactly how they're putting these together.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, because the ones that they were building were not nearly as cool as the house that was in my neighborhood, the mid-century moderns that were in my neighborhood. And so I remember thinking, when I'm looking at these constructions, that I think I know how to make them look better. So that was kind of where my head was. And so I was definitely influenced by mid-century modern in that way. And then when I started working, I ended up getting several projects and doing a lot of projects. You probably saw them on my website of mid-century modern renovations. By that time, those houses that in that neighborhood that I grew up in were like 55 years old, or whatever the numbers are. They're old, and so the kitchens are getting old, the bathrooms are getting old, and technology is changing, and glass is different, and people wanted to update stuff. And so I kind of got known as someone that could update these without destroying the mid-century modern language.
Nice.
So I ended up calling them mid-century modern reinventions, adding the new technology and some of my own design touches, but still following the language of the mid-century modern, post and beam, which is my favorite part of mid-century modern. So then the other stuff that you see on my website, you can actually see the influence of the stuff that's just all me, like new construction stuff on my website. You can definitely see the influence of people have told me this, that of mid-century, of my mid-century modern background. I'm just creating kind of my own language, but using some of that language.
I feel like the mid-century really does a good job balancing these kind of narrower structures, thinner structures on things that look like they have mass,
Yes, exactly.
And you do that with the pieces that go through the building, when you use stone sometimes to make it solid base.
Right.
And those were the things that I was like,
that's very observant of you. And those spine walls, I call them, are also an effort to do that inside out and outside in. Where you'll see it where it's the same material goes through, and lots of architects do that. But taking the walls out and having them become part of the landscape, and you can see that from the inside, really ties the two together.
Especially in our climate, right?
Yeah.
That allows us to,
right.
Mid-century modern wouldn't even have been possible, right? With the no insulation in the roof, like in your
right. Yeah, well, it's not even possible now in San Diego with that. But so you'll have a whole different perspective in Oregon.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. No, it'd be good to be exposed to something else. You're going to be somewhere where there's going to actually be snow loads to consider, and so that's good knowledge.
Yeah, and the exam will reflect that, huh? Like, if you wanted to practice in Oregon, would you have to take a certain? We have a range of climates, so maybe covered.
Yeah, the licenses are state by state.
Yeah.
So you take the exam in the state you want to practice in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but even in California, there's plenty of places with snow loads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you covered snow loads, I'm assuming, on your
I did a mountain. I don't remember it ever coming up on the exam that I took back in whenever it was. But I did a cabin, like a house, a mountain house cabin in Big Bear.
Mm.
And so we did have to consider that there, of course. So, and
How often-
it wasn't that big a deal. You just have to structurally put bigger numbers on it.
Hmm.
That's basically it, and then deal with the materials, because there's freezing and thawing, and
Mm.
we did things like put electric wires in the driveway, because it was kind of a steep driveway. Because if it's got icy, they weren't even going to be able to get up the driveway. Yeah, yeah.
How often do you consult engineers for your project, your
Every
types,
every project.
every single one?
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty much required. The scale of projects that I'm doing,
Yeah.
yeah, it's required.
Um,
And
do you,
often there's a landscape architect, and also a civil engineer, because the stormwater control systems that are mandated by the state of California now are very
Mm.
complicated. And it's been boom time for civil engineers, because they're needed on every project now.
you know, underline, write that down real quick. And we kind of covered your philosophy, some of your like guiding principles and philosophy that shape your designs with the inside out, outside in, and the
Right.
preserving the mid-century kind of
Mhm.
influence. But do you have any other like guiding principles or philosophies that shape your designs as a whole?
What I think I can think of is, it's going to sound strange, but a combination of simplicity and drama.
It's not strange.
That's what I try to achieve.
Seeing trauma. Right.
Simplicity can be dramatic
Yeah,
if it's done right.
very nice. And just in general, like in terms of the profession, what do you believe that what do you think the larger role of architects specifically within their society and their community, do you see them having a purpose or a larger like role within those communities, within their community?
Yeah, I do. I don't do any of those large scale projects that are considered like urban projects that would kind of fall under what you're talking about there. But I kind of agree with Frank Lloyd Wright's philosophy that architecture is more than about just buildings. It's about creating a way of life, at least with the residential that I do. And that's what I tell my clients, is that they're building, like the ones, especially the ones that have never done it before, which is most of them, building a custom home. I always tell them, I said, you have to realize that, when you buy a house, when you've bought a house before and you move in it, your lifestyle is partly your lifestyle is dictated by that structure. You have to go this way, that way, whatever, you can't see outside as much as you want, or whatever, that your life is dictated by that structure, and you adapt. It's not a big deal. But when you're doing something that's custom, even remodeling, like a major remodel to update something, if you're doing custom work, it's an opportunity to enhance your lifestyle. What do you want your lifestyle to be? And a lot of what I do is people buy view properties, because I've kind of gotten known to be doing stuff along the coast, ocean views or bay views or whatever. And so so the view is definitely usually a part of that lifestyle upgrade. And so you have to kind of teach them to think outside the normal box of
Mhm.
like, okay, I want 3 bedrooms, three
Mhm.
bathrooms, a family room. It's like, okay, but what if, how are you going to use that family room? And remember, your kids are going to grow up and move out of the house, and you're still going to be in the house. So
Yeah.
think about that. And
Yeah.
maybe some of the functions that you want to do in that family room would be better because of our climate most of the year. Maybe some of those functions in that space need to be outside in a covered, protected private outdoor space.
Mhm.
And so less square footage is needed it's like all that stuff kind of has to work together. And I don't know if I'm even answering your question,
No,
but
you definitely are. How do
uh,
you guide that? When you're is that in the initial stages of coming up with the broad
yes,
concepts? You
yeah,
ask questions that
right, right.
how would you guide that?
Yeah. I talk to them, meet them, talk about what their vision is. And I basically talk to them like I'm talking to you right now about
Yeah.
it, and try and train them to think outside the box. And then sometimes I get some really cool, surprising stuff that
Yeah.
they saw something, or they went on vacation and they saw this hotel that had this really cool thing. And it's like, and it's totally related to what I had told them.
Yeah.
That always feels good. And then a lot of that is a lot of that training comes into play when I present my initial
Mm,
concept, my initial rough concept,
mm.
uh, and I explain why I did what I did and everything, and they're usually pretty pleased.
And you go into the basically you tie in, you get the general feel of it, their wants, their needs,
Mm-hmm.
and then you tie in your explanations and you justify them with those wants and needs.
Right. I tie, yes, and because I take notes, and I remember everything that they say, um, and and even if they don't remember some of the things that they said, and yeah, so I take all of that, and that's what I consider the owner's program.
Yeah.
That would be the owner's program, and then I combine that with the jurisdictional restrictions on the
Mm-hmm.
property itself, height limit, building setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
The stormwater stuff is a big deal now. Yeah, so you have to make sure you leave room on site for any mitigation of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so all that and the topography, the view. I usually go out to the property and spend a few hours there, and you bring a usually bring the topo,
Mm-hmm.
the topography map, and on a board. And these days, because I'm getting old, I actually bring a folding table, and I sit there, and I have a bunch of juicy colored pens and stuff and some big sketch paper, and I just start drawing on it, and just sit there for quite a while, and and see what the sun orientation is, what the views are, walk around, um, what the sounds are, if there's noises, and what
Mm-hmm.
the neighbors, privacy. And I just mark up the whole plan with all these issues. The sun goes from here to here, and all that stuff. And so that sketch, that's just nobody ever sees these except me. So
Mm-hmm.
I think once I posted one on Instagram or something, but um, and so that's the part of the program that's the site talking to me.
Site study.
That's the site. Yeah, that's a site study. To me, it's the sites talking to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that combined with the jurisdictional restrictions, and then the owner's vision, as we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
those are basically the three things that have to do this.
So you're
And then
saying,
and then on top of that,
yeah,
it has to be beautiful.
has to be. Yeah. And do you start with the site? And it sounds like do you get the program from before you go
Yes,
the
yes,
speak with
yes,
the site.
yes. So I already have that in my head when
Mm,
I'm, and often that sketch has like a very general solution on it. while I'm there. It comes to me while I'm there. Not to mention it has all the other information about the the neighbors, the sounds, the smells, anything like that is on there. But often it'll have a little solution because it's important to have that program in my head so I can think how to apply that program to that site.
And
And that's actually a definition of organic architecture.
yeah,
So
I did see
people
that a
think
lot
that
on
organic architecture is, curvy shapes and forms, but that is not organic architecture. Making a building look like a leaf is not organic architecture. Organic
just because
architecture,
it's what
the
pops
word,
up when you Google it doesn't mean it.
right? Exactly. Um, yeah, but the word organic in this sense means the way the process develops. It develops organically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're on the site, you're looking at it, and it almost seems like when you get this, when you form that initial idea, it feels like it should be there, and then you have to
Oh my
build.
God, exactly right. I use
Okay,
that term with my clients all the time. It should be, or it wants to be.
it wants to be
It wants to be like this.
nice. And then do you ever feel like, or how often do you feel like the restriction, if at all, the restrictions imposed by like code and stuff get in the way of that wanting what it wants to be? Or do you go into it with enough knowledge of that where you kind of limit your imagination or you fit within that and you don't let yourself get to a point where it gets too outside the box in that way?
I really like your questions. It's it's both of those together.
Okay.
It's both of those together. Yes, I go into it with that's when I go do my little camp outs, I call them, on site. I have also already done all the research with the jurisdictional restrictions. So I already
Okay.
that's in my head too. And so it does hamper creativity, of course it does. But on the other hand, creating within limits can be creative as well. So it's kind of both of those, the way that the perfect way that you said that. It's kind of both of those at the same time.
It's kind of what separates, I feel, design from art in a way, is that design needs to create within bounds for a specific purpose.
It
Whereas,
has yes, it has a function. Yes.
and that's kind of what's fun about it, right? I mean, I don't know if well, like art's fun, right? And
Right.
art is like expressive, but I think that you were hinting at the joy of solving the problem,
Right.
at like solving the problem while creating art you can live in, right? Is what
Right.
where
Right.
you're.
Yeah. Exactly. Like a beautiful solution.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is you see, and I know I kind of said this before, but you see people's work and everything you've told me aligns so well with what I saw in your work.
Oh,
And it's just really cool to hear the thought process and how you go into each of your projects and like the mindset you go in with.
well, thank you.
I really appreciate you. Are you in your office space right now? Is
Yeah,
this
this is my design dungeon, I call it.
the design dungeon? Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of a converted shed space. I'm out in the desert, and so I insulated it with 3 inches of rigid insulation on the outside because it's so small.
Yeah.
I can almost touch either side, which is
Is it like 8?
super efficient. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably like 7. And so I didn't want to put any insulation on the inside because I need the inches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all on the outside with new siding on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got the kitchen U there going,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
convenient. You can just
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah. It's like a galley.
Yeah,
It's like a galley. This this is my plotter,
nice. Oh,
24.
that's fancy schmance right
Oh
there.
yeah, I do my own drawings, print my own drawings, unless it's only 24-inch wide. So if I have to send them out if I'm doing 30 by 42 sheets,
Mm,
which I end up doing a lot because some of my projects are big,
mhm.
and spread out. Those spine walls make it so that it doesn't fit on the drawings as well. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it's exciting. The more I he hear from, single, or like you work by yourself primarily?
Yes, I opened an office on Marina Boulevard in San Diego, kind of a fancy glass office, um, in 2015. And because I was getting really busy, I was getting the kind of projects I wanted, and I didn't want to give them away
Mm,
because there's a lot of projects that I'll turn down because I'm not interested. If somebody wants a Spanish house or something, I don't do that. But I
mm,
know the architects, I can refer them to somebody. And but I started getting more and more of the projects that I wanted to do. It's getting more and more. So I thought I needed to get some help. So I had 4 employees for like 4 years, 5 years. Fucking hated it.
yeah.
Oh my God, it was the worst idea ever. But during that time period, we produced a lot of work, and I did some really good design work during that period. But it was so stressful. Oh my God.
What was the main difference?
Well, the main difference was that, and this is why I asked you right up front if they were teaching you to draw,
Yeah.
and how to draw like construction drawings, and how to do the jurisdictional processing, because
Mhm.
that's pretty much the lion's share of what we do. The design part is fun, and that's up front and everything, but then you've got to delineate the whole thing and get it permitted.
Isn't
And
that like 80 to
yeah,
90% of the hours?
right, right. So I was getting students from the New School of Architecture,
Hmm.
and all nice people, but they don't teach them how to draw or do any of that important stuff in that school. But I had one of them excelled above all the others, and he was like my right hand man, which helped quite a bit. But and I knew going into it, because there were students, that there was going to be some training
Hmm.
time on my part, and I like that. I like mentoring young people.
Yeah.
Um, but I was in I was in there in the office late at night. Everybody had gone, all clocked out at 5 o'clock or whatever. And I was in there fixing somebody's drawings. And so it came to me that, okay, so, I spend this time training these guys.
Hmm.
And then I have to stay late at night to fix what they've done and then talk to them about it in the morning. But then also the next day, I have to write them a check. And I'm like,
At doing addition in your you're doing math
I'm
in
like,
your head.
there's something wrong with this. This doesn't make me feel good. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I closed the office in 2019, I think it was. Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with?
Right before COVID, I moved back home. So that was perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with your right hand man? What's he
Oh
doing?
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's working. He and his family. He's got 2 little kids. They ended up moving to Colorado, where he had more family over there, and got a really good job and is excelling at this architecture firm in Colorado.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was good, Christian, good guy.
How has your
So now
work?
we're, now we're like,
Yeah,
Facebook friends, and we text each other once in a while, and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
see pictures of the kids, you know.
Right, right, right.
How has your workload changed then since having 4 or 5 people under you?
Um, it was a little hectic without them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it felt better because I could focus more on that, not managing an office.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a whole nother time
Mm-hmm.
sucker right there. And so I was able to handle it. And then at the same time, I just got choosy about taking on new stuff.
Mm.
And that worked because the stuff just kept getting better. It's like clients that really came to me. That's when things really started changing. Was I mean, even during that period of the office being open, people had started coming to me for what I do,
Mm.
not just for an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people go, oh, oh, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to need an architect.
Mm-hmm.
People, I've had people tell me that I've been published in a bunch of magazines and stuff, and I've had people tell me that um, that they've like taken something out of a magazine that I did and like pinned it up on a bulletin board or put it on the refrigerator, and thinking, okay, so someday we're gonna do this, and like a year later they call me. It's like, that's, you never know, you just never
Yeah.
know.
And those are the clients you want. I mean, how long does it
Yeah.
take? How long does it take? And does it take the publications to and kind of a couple, of course, a couple projects under your belt to associate that style with you, and then you get clients coming to you for what you wanted, what you do, and if your style gets more refined from there because you can more readily express it.
Yes, yes. And to add, and I didn't want to lose this thought, that the ultimate architectural outcome of a project is definitely tied to the client as well.
Mm.
Their program, and their wishes and their tastes,
Mm.
and that's a big part of it. But yeah, the publications were semi-helpful, but the most helpful thing of all is, as soon as websites were available back in
Mm.
the 90s, I had one. I bought a domain immediately. And of course, my first website, if I was to look at it now, it probably sucks. But
But it
and,
worked.
and yeah, it totally worked. And I probably get most of my clients from either word of mouth or my website, not from publications.
That's good to know.
But I had this strategy on my website that totally worked. When I first did it, I just I figured out right away that you have to photograph your projects. You have to photograph them a lot. And so I was doing that, but I was doing, little projects and remodels and maybe a little Spanish house here, just doing what I can do to get paid and learn more. And so I would be, putting that up on my website as, current projects and everything. And then as I got better projects completed and photographed,
Mm.
I would put them on my website and take off something else that I didn't like so much,
Yeah.
right? And so after a few years of doing that, my website was starting to, so that's what people
Fine.
see. You look this guy up, look at his stuff online. So the website just evolved and got better and better and better, and to what it is today.
You don't put everything on your web, all your projects.
No, no. Well, pretty much now I do. I put everything up there, but yeah, at the beginning, no.
One of your projects has really good photographs done. They you even had like it looked like a model in there doing like some black and gray photographs.
Oh yes, that was a mid-century modern
It
reinvention.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That
that was
those
good.
photos were sent to me by the owners because they were approached, and I've gotten this several times where advertising scouts like for Ford or Mercedes, or this was some fashion company.
Uh-huh.
They drive around in these scouts. There's people that get paid to find locations
That's
for that kind of stuff. Yeah. So who's the famous skateboard guy?
Tony
Yeah,
Hawk.
Tony Hawk. So there's a Tony Hawk ad that he did for Mercedes, and they used my house.
No way.
Yeah, up on Mount
That's so
Somalia,
fun.
and
Yeah,
up on Mount
email it
Somalia.
over. That's so fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll
So
look it
I didn't
up.
even know it was going on. The client just sent me this video or a link to a YouTube video, and I went, "Fuck, that's cool." And
That
then I
is
talked
cool.
to him about what they had to take everything out of the garage because it was a car ad. The garage was a big part of it,
Yeah.
so they had to make the garage look just
Yeah.
exactly the way the director wanted it to be. Yeah,
Take all the boxes out. Hide the tools.
yeah. He said it was kind of cool because now my garage looks better.
It gave me an excuse to clean the garage.
Yeah, right, right.
Uh,
Yeah,
well, Mark, it was awesome meeting you.
yeah.
I
Likewise.
respect your time. I'm down to keep talking,
Yeah.
but I just want to let you know that there's no pressure.
No, it's good. I've got to run somewhere and make a deal on some concrete, but
To make a deal on some concrete.
that's the truth. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this too, Sam, and I have high hopes for you. Please keep me posted.
I was actually just gonna say that. I would love to keep in touch.
Yeah,
Just like
you've got my email. I respond to emails, and you can ask me anything, anytime.
perfect, Mark.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. It was a real pleasure.
All right. Nice to
Thanks,
meet you.
Mark. Nice to
Bye.
meet you.